Universal planned 7 movies. Disney lost $200 million, and Sony canceled an entire universe overnight. When studios greenlight a franchise, they're building an empire. Merchandise lines ready, 6 sequels mapped out, but sometimes that empire crumbles before it ever truly begins. These are the franchises that exploded on the launchpad. Let's start with one of the most infamous failures in recent memory. 2017. Universal Pictures had a plan. Not just a plan, a vision. They called it the Dark Universe. Their own cinematic universe built around classic monsters. Think Marvel, but with Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman. Tom Cruise signed on to lead The Mummy. Russell Crowe would play Dr. Jekyll. Johnny Depp was cast as the Invisible Man. Javier Bardem will be Frankenstein's monster. Angelina Jolie was circling Bride of Frankenstein. Universal was so confident they even released a promotional photo of all of these stars together before the first film dropped. The Mummy had a production budget of $195 million. It grossed $410 million worldwide. Sounds decent, right? Wrong. After marketing costs, the film lost between $60 and $95 million. More importantly, it earned a brutal 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics destroyed it. Audiences rejected it. Within months, the entire Dark Universe collapsed. 7 planned films vanished. The Bride of Frankenstein remake? Cancelled. Van Helsing with Channing Tatum? Dead. The Invisible Man with Johnny Depp? Gone. The failure was so complete that when Universal finally made The Invisible Man in 2020, they completely ignored the Dark Universe and started fresh with a $7 million budget horror film instead. What went wrong? Simple. Universal tried to build the plane while flying it. They focused on setting up sequels instead of making one good movie first. They shoehorning Dr. Jekyll as their Nick Fury equivalent when no one asked for it. The Dark Universe teaches us a simple lesson. You can't force a franchise into existence. March 2012. Disney released what they believe would be their next Star Wars, John Carter, based on Edgar Rice Burroughs' classic sci-fi novels. Directed by Andrew Stanton, the Oscar-winning mind behind Finding Nemo and WALL-E. Production budget $263 million. After British tax rebates, it still costs $307 million total. Disney spent $100 million on marketing alone. The film earned $284 million worldwide. Sounds respectable until you realize it lost Disney approximately $200 million. At the same time, it was Disney's biggest financial disaster ever. Studio chief Rich Ross resigned. Taylor Kitsch's career never recovered. Plans for sequels Gods of Mars and Warlord of Mars evaporated instantly. The failure was so catastrophic it changed Disney's entire strategy. 6 months later, Disney bought Lucasfilm and got the actual Star Wars. They dropped gambling on unknown properties and doubled down on proven franchises. The marketing killed John Carter before it started. Disney dropped Of Mars from the title after Mars Needs Moms flopped. So audiences saw generic posters with the name John Carter and had no idea what they were looking at. The property that inspired Star Wars and Avatar became Hollywood's most expensive cautionary tale. Ryan Reynolds as a superhero, a $200 million budget, the power to create anything with his mind. Green Lantern was supposed to launch Warner Bros.' DC Cinematic Universe. It had post-credit scenes setting up the sequel, plans for a trilogy, an animated series on Cartoon Network ready to capitalize on the film's success. The movie grossed $220 million on a $200 million budget, not counting marketing costs that likely pushed the total investment above $300 million. Critics gave it a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. The CGI suit looked terrible. The villain Parallax was a giant cloud, and the tone couldn't decide if it was serious or funny. Warner Bros. Abandoned franchise plans 3 months after release. The animated series was cancelled after 1 season. Reynolds has spent the last decade roasting the film every chance he got. Without Green Lantern to anchor it, Warner Bros. Had to scramble. They shifted their DC Universe plans to Man of Steel in 2013 instead. Reynolds Studios later explained the problem simply. There was too much money and too much time spent, and when there was a problem, they just threw more money at it instead of addressing the actual issues. Green Lantern proved that even beloved comic book characters aren't immune to terrible execution. Guy Ritchie, Charlie Hunnam, Jude Law, and a $175 million budget. Warner Bros. Didn't just want to make a King Arthur movie. They wanted an Arthurian cinematic universe. 6 films were planned. Each would focus on different characters before they all assemble Avengers style. King Arthur Legend of the Sword opened May 2017. It earned $148 million worldwide against its $175 million budget. Warner Bros. Lost over $150 million. All 6 films died instantly. The problems were obvious. Guy Ritchie's street-smart aesthetic clashed with medieval fantasy. The marketing couldn't explain what audiences were supposed to be watching. And most critically, Warner Bros. Made the same mistake as Universal. They planned an entire universe before proving audiences wanted one King Arthur movie. The round table stayed empty. After Pirates of the Caribbean, Disney had a formula. Take Gore Verbinski, add Johnny Depp, adapt a classic property, and print money. They tried it again with The Lone Ranger. The budget ballooned to $215 million, with an additional $175 million in marketing. The film opened on July's 4th weekend, 2013. Total worldwide gross, $260 million. Disney lost between $150 and $200 million. Studio president Alan Bergman later said bluntly, "It didn't get that much better," when asked if home video recouped the losses. The failure killed franchise plans and raised serious questions about whether westerns could work as modern blockbusters. It's now considered Disney's most notorious financial disaster, surpassing even John Carter. Turns out you can't just copy the Pirates formula with a different property and expect the same magic. New Line Cinema had a plan. Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy would be the next Lord of the Rings. Same studio, same ambition, 3 films already mapped out. The Golden Compass had everything. A $180 million budget, Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig, cutting-edge visual effects bringing armored bears and demons to life. December 2007. The film released to immediate controversy. Religious groups attacked it for anti-church themes. The studio had already cut the book's controversial ending to avoid backlash. It made $372 million worldwide. Sounds successful, right? Wrong. After marketing costs on the theatrical split, New Line barely broke even. More importantly, the studio had gutted the story souls trying to please everyone. Critics called it toothless. Fans of the books felt betrayed. The planned sequels for The Subtle Knife and The Amber Spyglass canceled within months. New Line had spent years developing this franchise. They built the sets, designed the world, cast the entire trilogy. One film. That's all audiences got. The story ended mid-trilogy with no resolution. The Golden Compass proved that trying to soften a controversial story to appeal to everyone means you end up appealing to no one. Luc Besson had a dream. The French comic series Valerian was his childhood obsession. He'd been trying to adapt it for decades. 2017, he finally got his chance. Budget $180 million. The most expensive European film ever made at the time. Besson wasn't thinking small. He envisioned this as a franchise. 6 films to explore the vast Valerian universe. A space opera to rival Star Wars. The visuals were spectacular. A stunning opening sequence, imaginative alien designs, thousands of species inhabiting a massive space station. But the leads, Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne, had zero chemistry. The script was bloated. The pacing dragged. Valerian opened July 2017. It made $225 million worldwide against its $180 million budget. After marketing costs of around $100 million, the film lost approximately $90 million. Besson's 6-film franchise died on arrival. No sequels, no spin-offs. His life's passion project became one of the biggest independent film disasters in history. Valerian showed that stunning visuals and ambitious world building mean nothing if audiences don't care about the characters living in that world. Notice the pattern. Every single franchise made the same mistakes. They prioritized universe building over storytelling. They assumed one successful film guaranteed audiences wanted 5 more. They confused brand recognition with actual audience demand. John Carter and King Arthur were based on properties most people didn't know or care about. The Mummy and Green Lantern tried to shoehorn in sequel setups that distracted from the actual story. The Lone Ranger assumed Johnny Depp alone could carry any franchise. The Golden Compass neutered its source material trying to avoid controversy, and Valerian had spectacular visuals but forgot to make audiences care. But perhaps the most telling factor: budget bloat. When your first film costs $200 to $300 million, you can't afford to simply break even. You need massive success. And when that doesn't happen, there's no room for a second chance. These franchises had everything: A-list talent, massive budgets, major studio backing, detailed plans for sequels and spin-offs. But they forgot the most important ingredient. Audiences have to actually want to see the first movie. You can't manufacture a franchise. You can't force a cinematic universe into existence through pure will and marketing spend. Marvel succeeded because they started small with Iron Man and built carefully. They earn audiences' trust one film at a time. These franchises try to skip ahead. They wanted to be the Avengers without doing the work of Phase 1. And Hollywood learned nothing. Studios kept making the same mistakes with different properties, convinced that this time would be different, because the allure of $1 billion franchise is too strong to resist, even when the graveyard of failed attempts keeps growing. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's most spectacular franchise failures, hit that like button and subscribe for more movie analysis. And drop a comment down below with the biggest franchise failure you think I missed. Because trust me, there are plenty more where these came from.